What I'm interested in here is that the truth of the matter is that what we're asking patients to do is to open up their story around whatever physical illness they're struggling with. And they come to us closed. And not everyone, but when you deal with chronic patients, people that are not very motivated, you find that they're closed down. And the issue is, how do you open it? How do you open up the story? Even if you have 7 or 8 minutes, how do you open up the story? How do you make this story larger? Now, the tendency of the field is to do what most of you did, which is wrestle. Now, some people also try other tactics, like you'll hear people try the tactics of tickling, which is you'll see some people actually using sense of humor to try to make things really easier on the patient. You'll see people bribe the patient. You will see people spend a great deal of time thinking about how to open it, when really it looks like the conversation is the best way to open it up. The best way to open it up is to begin to think about yourself in terms of their story. And what we call that is empathy. And so what we're going to try to do just over the next couple of hours is to think about how to open that up. Now, you might say, well, as a doctor, as a family physician, that's not my role. And what I will say to you is that you will always be doing, in the face of chronic illness, behavioral health counseling, even if it's for 5 minutes. Because your goal will be to try to not only give the person the best remedy, but also motivate them to take the remedy. Has everybody got that? And so the question will be, how well can you motivate somebody? And so if you take their tight fist and you try to wrestle it, what you will feel is actually them getting tighter. So when I was asking Ben, what happened when you were trying to get leverage, he could feel actually the person getting tighter. And when we try to wrestle people, and that's usually what we do, we end up in that space. Okay? So what I'd like to do tonight is just to give you a small exposure to the possibilities of opening based on the best evidence we have right now. And it could change, but it really is based on the conversation. Has everybody got that? It's based on the conversation. So what we're going to try to do is try to first ask you this very important question, which is, if you think of people that influenced you, right, that made a major positive influence in your life, right? Tell me, just as a group, tell me what they did. Anybody? What did they do? What were the behaviors you saw? Earth the group. Earth the group. No. Anybody?
They listened.
They listened. Okay. So one of the skills was listen. And you saw them, right? Listen. Now, it wasn't just the average everyday listening. There was actually a quality to it, wasn't there? It was kind of a different kind of quality. What else?
Ask questions.
They asked questions. And can I just say then, would it be fair to say that they were curious? You know, they were curious about you, right? So there's a kind of, oh, I just wanted to let anybody know, if it's spelled wrong up here, it's not really wrong. It's an abbreviation. Okay, so they were curious. What else? It was supportive. Can you say more about that? What were the behaviors you saw that made them supportive?
They kind of validated how I was feeling.
Yeah, you could actually feel, as they said things to you, right? There was a certain validation of your experience. You felt heard, you felt, right, a validation. Okay. What else, folks?
An example?
And yeah, they were an example themselves, right? And we often call that as role modeling, right? Is that fair to say? Right. Okay, what else?
Encouragement.
Encouragement. And when they did that, what kind of things did you see?
They said, like, you can do it,
Yeah.
you know, go for it.
Now, would it be fair to say that they had a certain belief in you that you could do even more than you thought you could do? Okay. So they had a belief in you. Okay, what else?
You're positive.
They were positive. They had a positive outlook, right? What else?
They were caring.
Caring. And when you saw that, is there anything particular you saw in them that they did?
They just made me feel safe.
Yeah, there was and there was a way in which you could feel like you weren't wrong or right? You were safe in their eyes. Yes.
I was going to say non-judgmental.
Yes. And they were non-judgmental. Okay, what else? What else? What were those positive influences? Those people who moved you at particular points in your life? Parent, a coach, a teacher, a spiritual person. What was it that they did?
Gave you feedback.
Feedback. You could feel some feedback from them, right? Of how they saw you. Okay. I'm sorry?
Candid.
Candid, absolutely. You could feel that they weren't holding back or they were trying to, right? They were just going to tell you, right? Candid. Oh, how did I spell that? Well, that's close. They were challenging. There was actually, it wasn't just they were supportive, right? There was actually this challenge, like you could do more, right? So there was a challenge. What else? Yeah.
They also checked in after a fall.
Yeah, there might be a challenge, but they would also think about you and come back, right? Come back and check in with you. What else? Anything else? Now, I know this is really bold on my part, but I want to just say to you that this is what I think it means to be a professional helping people. I think it doesn't matter how wicked smart you are about even a disease. I think you have to do this before your smartness is helpful. I think you have to decide that this is your job description. Now that is every bit of research that we've done on conversation with people who are patients, between doctors or nurses or social workers or care providers, any kind, that when they are doing this, they influence the person to be healthier. Would you agree with that synopsis? And when they're doing this, and that what motivational interviewing did was just basically turn on the recorder and listen. And listen to when a provider, when a healthcare provider, when a doctor or a nurse or somebody, when they were doing this, what was it that they were doing? What was that intervention? And in that, they motivated them. And they actually developed a collaboration, right, between themselves and the patient. Now, that's not necessary when somebody really needs your help. I realize that. When they're looking at you saying, can you help me with this? Then what they're asking for is the amount of knowledge you have about this. But when they're unsure that they want to change, when you're dealing with a smoker or an addiction or obesity or kind of chronic illness or diabetes or things that we know in the healthcare field people are not getting better from, over and over and over, we have to develop some means to influence them. And it has to be as part of our practice. So you can actually give a young man stitches who's got an addiction. And he will be fine with you doing something about the stitches. But the minute you bring up the drug addiction, you have a different kind of conversation. Is everybody with me? And that's the moment where you have to make an influence. That's the moment where you're going to feel them close down. That's the moment where we're going to think about, how can I be that caring, listening, asking questions, being curious, giving them feedback, being supportive, being candid, and at the same time validating them, being a role model for them, believing in them, having a positive view, and being non-judgmental. Because the people who are struggling the most with the most chronic illnesses in our culture get judged all the time. Not only do they get judged, but they don't get encouragement. They don't get curiosity. They don't get support. And what happens is they actually eat more and more of our resources, right? They eat more and more of our resources. So what we're going to try to do is to think about what motivated you is actually what's going to motivate that patient.